We're not done with fashion yet. I want to introduce Anna Palmer. She's a co-founder and CEO of the idea generator behind Fashion Project. This is a cool idea. It's a project movement, a powerful movement, turning closets into cash for charities around the world. Who doesn't have stuff you want to get rid of in your closet? Her charity Love is built. It's a college. It's a successful program for at-risk high school students. In the future, Anna hopes to be able to build take this model back to rural communities, encourage students from small towns across the country to dream big. And between her political, nonprofit, and business ventures, Anna graduated summa cum laude from Eureka College and also received her law degree from Harvard Law. Not bad. Anna, welcome.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here speaking in Chicago. I actually grew up about 3 hours south of here, so every time I'm back here, it feels a little bit like being back home. My name is Anna Palmer. I am CEO of Fashion Project. And I always like, before I continue on speaking, to ask the question, how many of you have heard of Fashion Project? All right, so we've got a few. This is great. That means that we haven't reached market saturation yet, so we still have room to grow. That's good. So all of you who didn't raise your hand, I'm sure you're wondering, what is Fashion Project? So Fashion Project is a subscription service where we send in emergency style consultations anytime you see somebody like your boyfriend, maybe your friend, maybe your neighbor next door walking out of their house wearing something like this. I'm just kidding, that's not what we do. I just wanted to make sure all of you were paying attention this morning. Did I make you a little nervous, right? So Fashion Project, like she mentioned, is this amazing e-commerce company where you can donate clothing, choose any 50c3 you want to support, really take the cause that you're passionate about. Then you can get rewarded by your favorite retailers. And not only that, you can shop fashionproject.com, and every single item you buy will have an impact on lives around the world. So to date, community members of Fashion Project have raised a little over $800,000 for charities in 42 countries, which is something that I'm constantly just amazed by people's generosity and so excited to be a part of. This is what it looks like. And our mission at Fashion Project is fashion as a force for good. That's what we're building on, and that's what we live for every single day. So my time with you today, my goal is to really talk about my journey building a company that focuses on both profit and purpose. And hopefully we'll have a couple of awkward photos along the way to make sure you guys keep entertained. For example, this happened. So at the beginning of the company, this was a promotion that we did for Dress for Success, and somehow along the way, nobody thought that maybe having a anatomically correct nude mannequin in the corner when you're doing a promotion for an organization that teaches women how to dress for the workplace was a bad idea. It still haunts us on the internet forever, by the way. But my mission today is by the time I leave this stage, I hope that each of you are inspired to dream big, to break down boundaries, to rethink the way that you think about giving back, and really follow your passion and your dream. And if you have an idea, whether that be for-profit or nonprofit, to use this as an inspiration to think about how you can do good in every single thing that you're doing. So I love this quote: the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. So today I just want to talk a little bit about how I feel my co-founder and I actually found out why and how we found our purpose. So back up to 2011, my co-founder Christine and I were set to graduate from Harvard Law. We thought that we'd have cushy law jobs. We had law school debt we had to pay off. We assumed that we'd be riding off into the sunset somewhere in something like a Mini Cooper, happily doing our law work. And then our lives changed direction. So the way it started is Christine and I were having a conversation. We were talking about how both of us came from nonprofit backgrounds. So I had started a nonprofit in college. She had started one in high school. And we both just had this passion and this deep sense of wanting to help our communities. But we thought maybe we'd have to delay that a couple years. So at the time, I was working on a company. The name was swapfish.com. And even though that name is a little deceiving, it was actually a clothing swap company. It wasn't a company where you send your favorite piece of salmon to your friend, just to clarify. Ironically, though, I show this photo because this was actually a donation box that we got in about 1.5 years ago. It was full of sweaters, but Christine and I made an intern open it first, just in case. So with this, we had talked about the idea and combined our philanthropy background and knew how much value was sitting in people's closets. And that really started the conversation. So from there, fast forward to June 2011, Christine and I are standing in line in Harvard graduation. And if there's anything you need to know about law school graduation at Harvard, it is that they really want to make sure that you get your money's worth because it is long. So there's a lot of pomp and circumstance. And it just so happens that Christine's last name was Risk, my last name was Palmer. Combine those two things together, it means that we were standing alphabetically next to each other for a very long time. And we were talking about just things we wanted to do after graduating. We had talked about this idea of secondhand clothing. And through that conversation came what I would call our inspiration moment. And that was this idea of impact shopping. So what is impact shopping? So that's not when you go and you black out and you binge in the shoe department of Saks, and you wake up the next morning and realize that you just had a big impact on your credit card bill. Although I get kind of excited about that idea too. But impact shopping is this idea that what if you could do the things you do every single day, the same behaviors, and somehow leverage that behavior to then donate money back to charity and make an impact. So specifically for Fashion Project, the way that works is through the things in your closet. So we had this crazy idea that what if there was a company where you could take items, you clean out your closet, you can get retailer rewards to go back and buy new things, but every single item you buy ultimately had an impact that you could track, and you could see collectively what all of those things were doing. So as an example, this is one of our product pages for Fashion Project. So you can see how much you're donating on every single one. But personal experience, so the dress I'm wearing, I bought through Fashion Project, and it cost about $100 on the site. It ended up giving $43 back to microfinance loans to women in Uganda to start businesses. Once I'm done with this, I will give it back through Fashion Project, ultimately donate to a nonprofit that I'm also really passionate about, which is something called Birthday Wishes, that provides birthday parties for homeless kids. And this dress will provide enough money to then go back and hopefully provide a birthday cake, maybe party favors. And if you think about that, I would have bought this dress anyway. It's the same behavior that I've been doing, but by doing it through the platform of Fashion Project and putting that corporate philanthropy layer on it, we're able to take that behavior and do something really amazing and have a big impact. So with that, our mission became really, how do you create a company that allows people's closets to change lives? So with that, this idea that we had in graduation just wouldn't go away. It's one of those ideas that reach out to you, grab onto you, and you start thinking about it day in, day out. You're waking up in the middle of the night, you can't shake it, you get excited. And we decided that we needed to make it happen, that Fashion Project needed to exist in the world. And I want to take a moment to think about that, because I don't know how many of you have had that experience, but I want to encourage you, if you have an idea that is that powerful, that you think may be your purpose, that you just cannot shake, do everything you can to drop what you're doing and chase that passion. Because ultimately, that's the way that groups of ordinary people can do really extraordinary things. So I'd like to say that we launched Fashion Project, it was smooth sailing, it was super easy, everything was great. Not true. Turns out that launching a company that's on the intersection of profit and purpose is actually pretty difficult because you're straddling two different things. So this affected us in a number of different ways. So first of all is fundraising and hiring. So if you think about that, when you're bringing people into your company, there's always this tension between how do you increase profits, how do you create that purpose and really be true to your mission. So when we were fundraising for Fashion Project, we were kind of straddled in between. And one of the things that we did was if we were talking to an investor, and within the first meeting, they asked this line for how much you give to charity. Is that negotiable? Can you guys cut that down if you need to? I would make a note, and usually we wouldn't really follow up on those meetings because we were worried that once you start letting people just chip away at the mission just a little bitty bit, all of a sudden you don't recognize what you have anymore. And so it turns out that the people you bring into that are incredibly important. The other piece of that was that it really affected us on hiring. So you'd get people with perfect resumes, but then you'd have to figure out, even with the perfect resume, do they have the mission? Because what we found is that if we're asking our customers to donate and give in this really innovative way, it needed to be something that was core to the DNA of the company. And so when we'd interview people, we'd ask people what their favorite charity was, when the last time was that they volunteered. And then you could tell whether or not that answer was authentic, and that was one of the ways that we discovered a team at Fashion Project that were all just super passionate about what we're doing and woke up every day to really think about how you impact the world through people's closets. So I love this quote. So behind every extraordinary thing is a group of just ordinary people. And I feel like with Fashion Project, one of the things that we've been so blessed by is having the experience to realize that if you have this big dream, Christine and I both, we had no experience with e-commerce. We hadn't started a company before. But the idea of impacting the world that way and changing the way people thought about giving was powerful enough that you took a group of ordinary people and did this extraordinary thing, because that idea drove it forward. And so I really want to encourage you all that if you have that idea, to go out and chase it as well. So just to wrap up some of the things that I talked about today. So I really want to encourage you that if you're thinking about starting something like this, do it. I'm happy to help. My Twitter handle is on the presentation. I'm really passionate about helping other people start companies like this in the intersection of profit and purpose. The other thing I'd say is that remember that the little things matter. So once you believe in it, really pay attention to the way that you sell that vision and who you bring into that, and don't compromise, and just chase it. And then finally, just remember that you don't necessarily have to come from a philanthropic background, or you don't have to be a startup company or e-commerce company to find little ways that you can make a difference or go after and chase big dreams. So I want to end with one story from my time with Fashion Project, which has stuck with me since the moment it happened, and I think really encompasses this idea of how can one person make a difference. So with Fashion Project, obviously, starting a company is really tough. Starting a company in the philanthropic space, also really tough. But one of the great parts of that is you get to hear the impact stories every single day. And so there was a time, it was about a year and a half ago. With the company, it was really hard. The team is going through a couple of things. We're trying to grow super fast, and I don't know if any of you have this, but there's always pressure to be doing more, getting bigger, making more of an impact, changing more people's lives. We just felt like we weren't going fast enough. And so I was sitting at my desk, and one of our employees walked in, and she was crying. And I immediately assumed that something was tragically wrong in the office. She was the one that handled HR for us. And so at the time, I was panicked as to what had happened to our employees. And she stopped, and she said, I just got off the phone with an exec director from one of our charities, and I have to tell you the story. So I stopped what I was doing. And it turns out that one of the exec directors of the organizations we work with had called us when she received the check. And we had initially picked our organization just because we really believed in the mission. It was empowering women. We thought that she was doing a great job. But we hadn't really worked with her much before. And so she calls us up, and she's crying on the phone. And she says, I was getting ready to stop. I was going to give up. I thought that what I was doing was too hard. It didn't make a difference. I couldn't get funding. And I was going to close up shop. And then the check from Fashion Project in your community arrived. And at that moment, I made the decision to keep going, to keep trying, to keep helping more women. And I realized that this is what I was supposed to do. And had that check not happened, I'm not sure that I'd still be here doing this. That check was the miracle I was waiting for. And she doesn't know this, but I think those words to our team was actually the miracle that we were waiting for, because it allowed us to realize that even though you want to be going out and you want to be changing all of these lives, sometimes the really little things and even one person that you touch can make such a huge impact. And she's gone on to scale that organization, and it's exciting to watch it grow. We have one of our employees now on the board helping her out. And that moment has always stuck with us, because that's what has allowed us to go forward as well. And so I just want to encourage all of you and leave you with this idea that if ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and the power of an idea is so powerful that it really can change lives if you just believe in it, don't ever doubt your ability to make a difference. And even when times get hard, know that it just takes one person, and that one person can ultimately make ripples around the world. Thank you.
That's a great presentation. I like your shoes.
Oh, thanks. Fashionproject.com.
There you go.
Shameless plug.
I tried to get Daniel to take his jeans off to sell, but that's the only pair he
That's
had.
right. We've tried to do that, actually. We'll give you a shirt that says I donated the shirt off my back.
Is that right? What a cool idea.
Yeah, it turns out, though, if you spring that on people, it's a little nerve-wracking. Also, at investor conferences, it's like you get all blazers and like
That's funny.
button-downs or T-shirts. So.
How do you decide what organizations to partner with, what charities?
Yeah, so we actually, we don't really as a company. So one of the things that's really special about Fashion Project is that we started the company as a commitment to let people choose. And that was one of the things we thought was missing in-kind contributions. And that right now, if you go to donate your clothing, you have a choice of the thrift store down the street. But with Fashion Project, you can donate to any 501c3. We have a legal structure behind that powers all of that, which I always skip in these things because tax law is not incredibly exciting for folks. So,
a lot of people are asking here online, what marketing or messaging strategies specifically have been most successful for you and why?
So I'd say for us, one of the big things we learned is you have to keep it so simple. And to be able to quantify impact, so it's one thing to say that you donate $47 to do something. Ideally, though, if you can tell a customer or a person that's using your service, if you donate here, you can provide 7 textbooks and just make it really simple, it's a lot more powerful. The other thing I'd say for us is that the overwhelming choice is actually a little bit hard as a message. So you have to really figure out what relates to the customer best and then speak to them just with the message and the nonprofit that's going to resonate.
And another question here from the audience. For Fashion Project, how do you market yourself and gain traction? Who is your target audience that you're focusing on?
So our target audience is anyone, right now it's female, anyone in their closet that has items that resell for about $30 or higher. Because what we found is that traditional thrift stores aren't really set up with the audience to be able to get maximum value for those things, and so that's where we step in. So it's really, I mean, our audience runs the gamut. Everything from the person down the street who's just buying, J. Crew at their local mall that isn't a fashionista, all the way through somebody who donates 30 pieces of Chanel and have it all categorized based on season.
It's amazing. People are also asking here, what's the best way to get started financially with a nonprofit that you truly and passionately believe about? A lot of people look at you and say, wow, she's Harvard, she's got a law degree. Do I have to have that to be able to get in and really understand what I'm doing here?
So you definitely don't. So I think I'm a little bit of an anomaly because before Harvard, I was very around rural Midwestern. My college, my graduating class was 92 people at Eureka. And so I think I learned early on that as long as you have that idea, I think the easiest way to get started is just talk to people about it. One of the things we found now that Kickstarter's out there, there's a lot of these platforms, CrowdRise, like you can get that message out to a large number of people without really having to worry about finding specific investors, so start there. And then the other thing I'd say is just focus on quantifying the impact. So when you're pitching your company, find somebody who resonates with what you're doing and then really talk in detail about the impact that that's going to have, both financially.
Quantifying the impact. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so meaning being able to say exactly what you expect to be able to do. So we're an interesting hybrid, right? Because we're actually a for-profit company. But if you're getting investor money, they think like typical investors, so they think finance. So to be able to show the numbers of if you invest X number of dollars, then you ultimately have a chance to generate Y in donations across the entire world, I think is really important.
Do you leverage volunteers to support your project?
We don't, but volunteers would be great. So if anyone wants to volunteer, hit me up on Twitter. So we don't, because we, as a company, have a fairly small team, and then we rely on our nonprofits to go out and do some of the heavy lifting on that. So they have volunteers, which we work really closely with, but we would also, we would love to do that as well.
How do you partner with nonprofits to join your platform, and what support do you provide them to leverage your services?
Sure. So we actually just launched a new product that I'm so excited about 8 weeks ago or so now. And it's basically like Kickstarter for your closet. So every nonprofit now can create their own fundraising page. And from that page, they can track their impact. They can invite all of their friends. It's super easy.
So if I have a charity for cats,
Yep.
I can just go onto your webpage, set it up, and do it through you.
Yeah, and then on the back there's a dashboard, so you can see as people are donating, who's responded, who hasn't, what their value is. You can thank them, all of that. So it's really easy, and they can both donate and shop off of your page.
Wow.
So you really don't have to do much at all besides promote it on social media and email.
That's a great way to launch a cause that you care about without having to fully launch it yourself. Is Fashion Project looking into expanding into menswear, which you talked about earlier? If so,
Yes.
how would that change your business strategy?
Yeah, so we are looking at expanding into menswear. We're going to be taking it very shortly. I think when we set up the structure of Fashion Project, we set it up to be able to do this model with any number of things. And so we always thought that we would go there. Right now we actually do accept menswear, but we just don't sell it on the site. So I don't think it really changes much for us at all, besides just allowing more people to get involved and have that message go wider and have more impact through people's closets.
Okay. How do you connect the positive impact of normal behavior back to the buyer? What you're doing is so great. It's sending out a positive message too, makes people feel good. But how do you bring that back to the buyer?
Sure. So I love this part about Fashion Project. I encourage everybody to go, and if you haven't shopped on it, you should go and shop.
I have a wedding dress that I need to get rid of.
Oh,
actually.
okay, awesome. We'll talk about that after.
Good.
Perfect.
I'm still married to him. No, it's
okay.
not, I just want to clarify that.
Okay, that's like a different type of
You
donation.
might be watching. That's a different type of donation.
So one of the really fun things about the shopping experience is that you can see throughout that entire process how much impact you've had. So on your checkout page, it tells you exactly the amount that's going to charity. And then when you log into your account, you can see the number overall of what you've raised.
Oh, wow.
So I think so far in Fashion Project, I've raised like $1,500 or something, which is a constant reminder of how many things I buy.
Great.
But also, it's good because you can see that visibility.
That's wonderful. Let's talk about how do you keep the mission alive in your work culture? It's so hard when you're, especially a for-profit, trying to get people to really believe and continue believing.
Yeah. So that I think it's a massive challenge, and we struggle with that every single day because there's that tension between quantifying the numbers and the metrics and how the business is growing, and then also how your impact is growing. But we have a company mission that's on a pillar in our office, which is be nice, work hard, stay humble. And then on the other side, it says, remember why you started. And so that idea that even when you're wrapped up in your metrics spreadsheet and you're stressed out because you're trying to hit your financial goals for the month, the reason why you actually started that job was to help people and to see that impact. And so trying to think about every single job that somebody has, whether it's processing inventory faster through the CFO running numbers, anytime you're able to do that better, you can help more people. And I think it's just really important to keep reminding people of that message and put charity at the forefront.
What a difference we've learned that it's charity can make for companies, even just their bottom line, if you really moving people. Well, Anna, we want to thank you so much. What great advice. Right back. I'm going to bring Derek up.